What's up guys, welcome to the video and welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. We're out at a beautiful archery range today to talk about how I sort of drill things differently as we creep closer to opening day of archery season here in Ohio. Right now we're about 60 days out, which means it's pretty much crunch time for getting all of my gear ready. Right now I'm working on building out a sight tape and getting stabilizer positions where I like them, but I'm also starting to run some different drills during my archery sessions to get me more in the mode of real world situations and out of the mode of spot shooting or indoor 3D shooting. Now there's three big things that change whenever you go into a hunting situation that don't necessarily happen in a 3D shoot, spot shoot, or field target shooting like I'm doing out here behind me. And we're going to talk about those three big changes in this video today, and hopefully that will give you guys a better look at how I like to change things up when I go to the range when I'm close to season or in season versus in the off season. So most of the changes I'm going to talk about in this video happen because we're shooting at live targets. Animals, wild animals, whatever game you're going after, whether it's deer or wild hogs or elk, they change the game whenever you start to go hunt them and when you're ready to take a shot at them. So the first big thing that I like to practice so that I'm not running into issues in the field is shot pacing. Now there's fast shot pacing and there's slow shot pacing. So when would I want to do a fast paced shot? Preferably never. Preferably I would have my timing be exactly the same throughout all of my shots that I shoot out here on the range. I am naturally a pretty fast shooter. I don't hold on that back wall or on back tension for very long before my shot breaks, and my pin is most stable at the beginning of my shot cycle, I guess I could say. So I try to let that arrow go as quickly as comfortably possible, right? We don't want to rush shots. But when you're actually out in the field hunting, you might have to rush a shot. You might have a deer that is actively looking at you, you're at full draw, but you don't really know when they're going to bust out of there, so you want to get that arrow off quick. Don't do this at extended ranges. I would say 25 and in is the only time I would ever do something like this. But practicing getting that shot off early can definitely save you issues in the field if you are, being looked at by that deer. They're trying to figure out exactly what you are. They're giving you that little head shake that they do to try and get you to move so that they can bust you. Getting that shot off fast is going to benefit you. Now, a long shot cycle is actually quite a bit worse in my eyes than a short one, and I'll tell you why. Typically, this can happen if you draw back on a deer and they spot you and they stop. And as they stop, they hide their vitals behind a tree just by random chance or happenstance. This is an issue because now you're at full draw waiting for this animal to expose its vitals, but now your shoulder's burning out. But as men, with our egos, which is just the reality of life, we would like to imagine that we have this infinite clock of how long we can hold back this bow because we're so strong and our dad didn't hug us enough. But the reality of the situation is eventually you're going to have to let down, and if that is a shorter time period for some of you versus a longer one for others of you, the guy with the longer amount of endurance to hold this bow back is going to have an advantage in those situations. And the only way really to do it is to train it. So what I'll typically do is I will draw my bow back and I will just sit with my pin settled on my target for as long as I comfortably can before I feel like I have to let down, and then I'll break that shot. One was sort of a normal pace, which means just whenever I feel comfortable breaking the shot. One was rushed, which means as soon as my pin settles, breaking the shot as quickly as I comfortably can. And then another one was a long hold on the draw until I could really feel my shoulder starting to shake on me, then breaking the shot after that, which took about 45 seconds, I would say. So this is the group at 60, right? And I am by no means a professional archer, right? Just trying to learn here. But this is the 60-yard group, aiming for this circle. Sight might need clicked over a couple of clicks, but a really solid group at 60. And this is kind of what you want. You don't really want pace to affect you, right? Because if pace affects you, then the deer's decision to give you a good shot or not will then directly correlate with your ability to make a good hit on that deer. And that's not what we want. We want to be as in control of an uncontrollable situation as possible, which is kind of why people get driven crazy by deer hunting, I think. Whew. I'm shooting this in late July, so it's about 92 degrees outside right now. I'm wearing a black t-shirt because I'm dumb, and I'm burning up. So another thing that I like to practice as we get closer and closer to archery opener is actually angled shots. Now this means the angle of the deer and the angle of the actual, upward or downward angle that I'm shooting out of a stand, saddle, or whatever have you. So the best way to practice this is obviously to just practice it, right? Go up into a raised platform like they have here at this range and practice hinging at the hips instead of just dropping that front arm in order to point your bow down. You have to hinge at the hips to keep your distance between your grip and your hand constant, which is how you keep your shots constant over and over. It's very comfortable to just shoot on a range like this where everything is flat, where your shot sequence can be the same every time and you don't have to worry about angles. It's going to allow you to shoot the smallest groups and feel the best about yourself, but you do need to practice those angled shots, and the best way to do that is either get up onto a pedestal type platform like they have here at this range, or actually get up into your stand, chuck a 3D target out into the woods and take shots at that. It's also really important to make sure that your third axis is set up correctly when you do these types of shots. That's the third axis of your bow sight. That's going to keep things consistent as you start to angle that bow up or down, and that bubble level tracking to true level, even if it's tilted up or down in the field. Your local archery shop should be outfitted correctly and be able to take care of that for you, but it's just something to be aware of. Also, it's pretty safe to assume that most of you guys are shooting at your 3D deer targets broadside. First and foremost, the 10 ring on most 3D archery targets is not a literal 10 ring on a deer. It's not where the heart sits, which is my sort of mental 10 ring. A 10 ring or heart shot on a deer in real life is quite a bit more forward and low. So I am going to start switching up and aiming for that position on a deer whenever I'm shooting at 3D deer targets, just to get that mental note in my mind that, hey, you need to aim forward and low of a traditional 3D target 10 ring when you're actually in the field and you're actually hunting. Secondarily, don't be afraid to shoot at that target at different angles. Make it quarter to you, make it quarter away from you, even shoot full frontal if you have an arrow setup that is made to do that and you are confident in taking full frontal shots, which some people aren't, and I completely support that. However, your shot placement does change at all of these body angles on the deer, and you need to understand, hey, if he's quartering to me, I need to tuck that arrow forward a little more. If he's quartered away, I can handle tucking it backwards a little more. And you always want to be aiming for that offside armpit. That's a good rule of thumb, is imagine where your exit wound is going to land and aim for the offside of that deer, straight through the armpit if you can. So the third and final thing that I generally change about my archery training is I'm going to start shooting out of the equipment that I plan on hunting out of. Saddles, ladder stands, hang-on stands, blinds, or just the ground over horizontal cover that's natural. Things change when you get up in a saddle, for instance. You've got, ropes hanging everywhere, and if you're running like a backbend, you've got extra straps, and you have to know how to get your bow off of the hanger without making excess noise or excess motion. Out of a ladder stand, you've got metallic parts everywhere that you would probably rather not ding your bow into. And in a ground blind, even though they're the most simplistic way of hunting, shooting through the windows and understanding the offset between your sight and your rest is a huge deal. You don't want to think that your shot window is open because through your sight you don't see any of your blind, but actually that arrow's coming off lower, impacting your blind, throwing off your shot, and then you go home sad, and nobody wants that. So no matter what you're shooting out of, I'm a saddle guy personally, but I definitely have some permanent ladder stands set up on some private property. Go out and practice. Go out with a 3D target, climb a tree, chuck it out there into the woods, and take shots at it. I like the Reinhardt 18-1 target because it has those angled surfaces to shoot from upper or lower angles. There's also a review on the channel of the Reinhardt 18-1 archery target. Like it a lot. I've got probably over 1,000 arrows on those targets altogether and on my second one right now. If you're interested in the Reinhardt 18-1, feel free to check out that video. I'll leave it linked right up here. So in closing, things change when you move off the archery range and into the whitetail woods. Number one, you do not control the pace of your shot anymore. This is no longer a controlled environment. This is a wild animal that does whatever it wants. So you may have to rush a shot if you're about to be busted and they're at an ethical range. Don't do this at long range. And you might have to do a more slow-paced shot if they are not exposing their vitals and you're already at full draw and you have to wait for them to move into a better position. Second thing, practice at different angles. Practice at different angles quartering to, from, frontal on deer, and also practice at different angles out of a tree. Third and final thing, it kind of relates back to number two, shoot out of whatever implement you're using to climb a tree or the blind if you're hunting off of the ground. Also get used to shooting from behind horizontal cover if you're shooting from no blind and you're just out on the ground hiding behind a log. Been there, done that. It's fun. So that about wraps it up for me, guys. Those are the three main things that I change about my archery sessions whenever I start to train to actually hunt. If you think I missed anything or you guys do anything different to train for hunting season, feel free to leave it down in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.